this meeting of the Northwest Local School District Board of Education to order. Chris, if you would call the roll, please.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Harlow?
Here.
Mr. Heather?
Here.
Mrs. Detzel?
Here.
Mr. Detzel?
Here.
I'd ask that you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our next item is approval of minutes. Dr. Jackson.
You have the minutes from April 13th. So the treasurer and superintendent recommend the Board of Education approve the minutes as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Chris, please call a vote.
I think you have to go back one item. I think you advanced it accidentally, so she can't call for a vote.
I'm on my screen. I'm showing. Let me go right here. I'm showing.
There you go.
Regular minutes. Okay. Motion carries 5-0. Our next item is the superintendent item.
Yes, at this time I'd like to introduce Mrs. Deborah Esterbrook, who will present a eulogy for Kim Wilkerson.
Thank you and good evening, Boyd. Good evening. I'd like to welcome the Wilkerson family and friends and thank you for coming as we pay tribute to Kim. Tonight I have the honor of recognizing a wonderful woman who touched the lives of thousands of Northwest Local School District students, colleagues, and parents. Kim started her career at Northwest 20 years ago on April 17, 1995. She was a 2-hour-a-day cafeteria assistant at Colerain Elementary. In August of the same year, she moved to White Oak in a 4.5-hour position, and then she returned to Colerain L in August of 2002 as a 6-hour cook. In August of 2005, she was promoted to the position of cafeteria manager at Mumford Heights, and I've had the privilege of working with her for the past 10 years. Kim was indeed an outstanding employee and Cardinal fan. Her love for the children was evident. She went above and beyond to provide nutritious meals, decorate for every holiday, and decorate the kitchen with SpongeBob to Cat in the Hat characters. She would post the students' birthdays and make exhibits for the display cases. And this year she had her Breakfast Club kids. Kim prided herself on the cleanliness of the kitchen, and her team won numerous Clean Kitchen Awards from Hamilton County. Kim did not understand the word no, and she would give her time freely. She participated in school functions and events by helping the Kiwanis prepare hot dogs for our Welcome Back community nights, and she called them her guys, to working at PTA carnivals and working with our PTA. She will continue to be a constant memory for many of us, as we have pictures of our children and grandchildren with Mr. and her own genuine Mrs. Claus. Kim was an avid Cardinal fan, and she loved to watch her nephew play Colerain football on Friday nights. Her family has season tickets, and sitting front and center in their Colerain spirit wear, her smiling face was seen on the 40-50 yard line, and it will be surely missed. Cheryl Romans, our district food service supervisor, shares one of the things she loved most was when she and Kim would call each other in the morning on the phone, and Kim would ask how she was, and when she asked Kim how Kim was, Kim would always say perfect. And when I talked to her every morning, she was always fantastic. I would see Kim every morning, as I said, in the office area, and we would share weekend stories. I'd hear a lot about your camping adventures and your travel adventures. I won't go into those details, but her positive energy was infectious. And Kim made the work environment, as Mumford Heights' motto says, a fun place to be. And her cafeteria team shares that she was not only a great boss, but a good friend. A memory our custodian Kenny and cafeteria staff Robin wanted to share was about one of her every Wednesday summer trips to White's Flea Market in Brookville. I understand that one time she couldn't find the fruits or vegetables she wanted, so she bought a dog. She named him Cy after Duck Dynasty. And I understand you still have Cy? Yes, I hope it's a fond memory and he's not a naughty dog. But that was our Kim. Kim will always have a place in our hearts, and we will honor her by dedicating Mumford Heights Kitchen with a plaque. It'll be called Kim's Kitchen. To Kim's family, part of our team is missing, but we want to share that we feel blessed to have made her acquaintance. Thank you.
Very nice eulogy, Mrs. Estabrook. Thank you very much. Our next item is legislative update. Mr. Harlow?
The House has passed their version of the biennial budget, House Bill 64. One of the key features there as far as school funding issues go is that they completely restored any phase out that had been proposed by the governor for the tangible personal property tax. So once again, Northwest is looking pretty good in terms of funding from the state. And another item of legislative interest that's coming up is House Bill 74, which has been reported out by the Education Committee. It'll be voted on by the House here either this week or next. And what House Bill 74 does is call for a reduction in test time and test prep time for the variety of standardized tests at a number of grade levels that we have to take. It also would prohibit the state from spending money with PARC, which was the organization that administers the Common Core. So that may be up for some kind of change here, depending on how this goes. So that's my report.
Thank you, Michael. That's very good with no notes. You've done your studying, haven't you?
I just typed it out about 3 hours ago, so it's still fresh in my mind.
I was going to say, I don't see your notes there. I don't know why that skipped forward. I'm stuck on legislative update. Student Achievement Liaison report, Dr. Jackson.
Yeah, I'm going to introduce Mrs. Ginny Bless, and she's going to introduce our speakers and our program for this evening.
Doesn't work. I'd like to introduce Claire Osterbrock. She's a district job coach for our district, and tonight she has 2 students with her, and they are going to discuss the job coaching program at Northwest and share some of their experiences in the community.
Thank you. I'm one of 2 job coaches for the district. My coworker Kathy Moore could not make it tonight due to another work obligation. I want to thank you for this opportunity to share with you about the information about our community-based work study program. Work study is a service provided to high school students who are identified as having a disability and have an individualized education plan. The goal of work study services is to provide students with an opportunity to work in an authentic business to gain employability skills that will increase future employment opportunities, enhance personal development, and assist in successful adult outcomes. We work with between 30 and 32 students from Corrigan High School and Northwest High School. There is a set schedule with students going out to work 1 time a week for 2 hours with the support of a job coach. We work with 14 different businesses in our community. Our sites are not expected to compensate our students, although 2 of our sites are paid. Some of our sites provide what we call perks, which one of the sites our students go to is a head shop, which is a hair salon. And on their last day, they are treated to a free makeover and pizza. The students that go to La Rosa's, every shift they get to make their own pizza. Those are just a few of the perks. So now I would like to introduce you to 2 of our students, Jerry Schmeling from Corrigan High School, Antonio Lowe from Northwest High School, and they're going to talk about their experiences.
Hi, my name is Antonio Lowe. I'm a senior at Northwest High School. Thank you for having me here to speak about my work-study experience at Northwest. These work-study experiences have taught me how to do different types of jobs, and they helped me to find employment. I've had the opportunity to work at Staples, Hamilton County Educational Service Center, and North Central Library, and the Roses. I've learned many job skills such as bussing tables, washing dishes, collating papers, stocking shelves, and organizing books. I learned how to pay attention to what I'm doing, to follow directions, and stay on task to get the job done. I also learned when I'm not sure about something, I ask questions. I want to thank Ms. Moore, Ms. Osterbrock, Ms. Woodward, and the Board of Northwest for allowing me the opportunity to experience these different types of jobs. Thanks to these jobs, I was able to get a job at Kroger's. I hope the opportunities that have been given to me by the Board of Northwest will continue to help the future students to also reach their goals too. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jerry Schmeling. I'm a senior at Corrigan High School. I have participated in work study for 2 years. In the last 2 years, I have worked at La Rose's, TGI Fridays, Hamilton County Educational Service Center, and currently I work at Sears. I have had excellent work experiences. I have learned how to appropriately greet people and introduce myself. I have learned appropriate work conversations and expected behavior. I've learned how to follow a dress code and learn how to follow a routine. I ask my coworkers if they need any extra help when I finish my tasks. At one of my jobs, an employee gave me his business card and said I can use him as a reference. These job experiences have made me feel proud of my accomplishments. I can put all these experiences on my resume. This program has helped me work towards my goal to being employed at Soccer City. Thank you.
We would like to share with you a video that our SLP, Christina Back, who's in the audience, that created a couple years ago to thank our businesses for their support.
Hi, my name is Janae, and I work at the YMCA.
Hi, I'm Marty. I work at Hamilton County Education Service Center.
I'm Sarah, and I worked at the head shop and Pilates.
Hi, I'm Tajay. I work at Target.
Hi, I'm Kevin. I work at Outback Steakhouse.
My husband and I work at Pilates and hair shop.
Hi, I'm Mike. I work at the Roses and CVS.
I'm John Meyer, and I work at Meyer.
I'm Brian Klossman. I worked at Sears and Northgate Mall.
At Target, I learned how to communicate and help others.
I learned how to put the small boxes on the skid off the truck, and how to put the big boxes from the truck into the elevator.
I learned how to work with others and do office work.
I learned to keep up my pace.
At the YMCA, I learned how to follow directions and interact with the kids.
I learned how to fill up ice machine, fold pizza boxes, and did a salad table.
I learned how to restock.
I learned how to greet by saying "Hola" or "Adios."
My favorite part was making the calzones.
I like working with other classmates.
My favorite part was I would take the boxes off the truck, and I would take the big ones back to the elevator.
My favorite part was helping other people.
I love everything.
My favorite part was getting a free drink.
My favorite part was meeting new people.
Favorite part about going to the YMCA is going to the gym, picking out activities for the kids.
Thank you to the people at Meyer.
I want to thank Mrs. Osbrock for just everything.
Thank you, Hamilton County Education Service Center.
I'm Ms. Ashbrook.
I'd like like to say thank you to all the people at the Roses for helping me and Mrs. Osterbrock.
I would like to thank Ms. Moore and the people at YMCA for supporting me at the YMCA.
I'd like to thank the people at Sears for giving me a chance to work there. I'd like to thank Nick for working with me. And then I'd like to thank Ms. Moore and Ms. Osterbrock for being there for me for 4 years since freshman year to my senior year. Thank you.
I would like to thank Mrs. Osterbrock, Melissa, and Christy for supporting me and giving me this opportunity to work with you. Thank you.
This is Sarah again. I think I did the exact same thing. Oh. No.
What? I worked hard on that.
That's it.
I'd like to take a second to thank the department, the staff. I know we did some shuffling around, and you guys did a great job with the report. For the two boys that just presented, both of you are wonderful speakers. You did such a great job. You don't know how hard that is for a lot of people to get up, especially in a room full of people, and you did awesome. So you can come back and talk to us anytime, even after you graduate. So, and I'm just curious, what's your favorite pizza you make when you get to make your pizza on Fridays?
Thank you very much for the program and your efforts. One of those young men in there is one of the Eagle Scouts from our scout troop. So thank you. We'll move on to the next item, which is the Butler Tech update. Mr. Detzel?
Yeah, Dan, just a couple of things. The building of the, if you don't know, we're building a bioscience building at I-75 in Cincinnati Dayton Road. It will be open for this coming school year. Everything is set. The time schedule is fine. So they're going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony. It's either in August or September. We've got to get the date, so I'll let the board members know when that's going to be. And then the all boards meeting will be October the 13th. And I'll give you the times in that once it gets a little closer. Let you know when that is. It's the RSVP. Other than that, that's it, Dan.
Thank you, Jim. Our next item is a special report. Dr. Jackson, tell us about the special report.
Before I introduce our principal, I was going to ask the students and the teachers to step out in the lobby area, and maybe either Mike or Daryl could get their picture so we can put it on the website. Would you guys mind doing that for us? So if the parents and the teachers could step out in the lobby real quick. Normally Pauletta does that, and she is not here. Thank you. All right, so we have Mrs. Estabrook from Montfort Heights Elementary is going to update the board on their building improvement plan.
I have a PowerPoint, I'll wait. Mr. Harlow, I heard your report, and just keep that in mind as we give our report, because we're talking about preparing for park.
Yes.
So, you know, I wonder how futile all this is, but I think it's going to be around for a while, so let's see. It's always the click, click, click. I run slow too, so it's all right. Okay. Well, we could start to talk. Our first slide was on building a strong foundation at Montfort Heights, and it had our motto, which is, at Montfort Heights we come to school ready to learn, listen, and achieve, and by creating an environment where students who like who they are and look forward to who they will become, they will be able to shine like the brightest stars. So our topic tonight is preparing for park. And when we worked on our building improvement task plan this summer, our goals focused on aligning the Marzano Effective Instructional Practices with the district essential understandings and scales with the core curriculum. So one of the ways that we were able to use PARC was using the sample questions as a way to inform and prepare instruction. It wasn't the end-all be-all, it was one little tool. And so there was a nice little, okay. That's all right. So we did talk, there we go. We've already done this one, so. We don't have a clicker, oh, we do have a clicker. Okay, next, click. Is that a clicker? You have to aim it that way. Or just click, I can say click. If you didn't know what PARC stood for, there's a mouthful right there. And then we give a 4th grade social studies and 5th grade science air. So we were on those sites also. Okay, the next slide. And so at the beginning of the year, we assessed what our building needs were and where we needed to do PD. And so our tech skills, we had to learn some new skills for the staff and the students. We had to maintain and keep learning our Common Core knowledge. And we had to develop rigorous questioning strategies, and we worked on this through PD. And we planned the rest of our building on PD around those strategies, and we did a lot with family communication, letting them know when we were testing and what we were working on to help prepare the students. So on the next slide, one of the key components is teacher training. One of it was to navigate the PARC website, or any PARC sites on the computer. If you've been on and you just Google PARC, a lot come up. So teachers were exploring. We'd give staff meeting time, and we'd do our professional development on just getting on the site and seeing what's what. PD, we worked on depth of knowledge and questioning strategies. Mr. Phelps is going to talk more about our tech skills. And then we actually did a lot of work on how to administer these assessments. It's a lot different than being provided a manual from the old OAA that you just read. We had to get online and download a lot of manuals and walk through it so we knew what to do. Our performance-based assessments were given earlier this year. I think we began as early as January or February. It was early. And those required quite a bit of written answers by the kids. We did that for 4th and 5th grade and 3rd grade math. And those are to be human scored, and we should get those results much too late from what I hear, but the human scored part. And then we are right in the process of doing our end of year tests right now, and those seem to be more multiple choice. The kids, I think they take about an hour and a half once they get in the lab, so children are pretty used to that. And then scheduling, I think we had draft 1, 2, 3, I lost count. I mean, that you're scheduling 2 labs and trying to give children breathing room and everything. It was pretty intense. And then my right-hand guy here, Zach Phelps, was instrumental on teaching children about the teachers, about the tickets and codes. So Zach, if you want to take over right now.
Perfect.
Go ahead.
Okay, one of the things we really focused on was adding rigor in the classroom. So what we did was when we were in our teacher-based teams, we focused a lot on not only the Common Core, but what PARC would ask, and made sure that they were seeing that in the classroom as well, that level of rigor. And when we looked at our scales, we really pushed that we wanted our students to be at 3s and possibly 4s, and 4 would be the highest point of one of our scales. So one way we did that was to have our entire school sit down, even kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade teachers, and just take a practice PARC test. They got online, they got to see what was expected of their students, and for the grades that didn't take PARC, kindergarten, 1st and 2nd, they at least could say, wow, okay, this is where we need to be, this is where we are shooting for our students to be. And through that, we realized we needed to incorporate charts and graphs and written responses, explanations and comparisons across all grade levels. So in our teams, that was kind of how we dealt with that. And on the next slide, we're talking a little bit about the need for technology, the big push, and I know there's more coming down the way, especially in the elementary schools, getting the technology, and they're very grateful for that. But we had a science lab converted to a computer lab so that we do have access to 2 labs so that we can do most of the classrooms within the time frame, and also we have a separate set of Chromebooks to do our small group and accommodations and things like that.
So back to 2013-14, after we took the MAP and MPG, those are the online tests for our students, it was amazing. We saw that kindergarten students and first grade students needed tech skills. So we focused on giving those students needed tools for success, as well as teaching rigorous content. A lot of kindergarten or parents of prospective kindergarten families ask me, well, what should I teach the children? What can I do to give them a help up? And lately I've been saying, teach them how to use a mouse, teach them how to drop and drag, teach them how to answer multiple choice. I mean, you think of a 5-year-old, they can do A or B. And our MAP and MPG, which by the end of the year they get there, they're asking them for a choice of 1 out of 4, or even 2 out of 4. So all you have to do is teach the children those skills and they get it, but they're coming in pretty raw. So that was nice of having that our science lab converted to another tech lab, as teachers could get in on a language arts block of time or whatever and have students work on some of those skills. But it's a lifelong learning skill too when you think about it. So, and Zach will talk about some of our skills lab.
So our skills lab time this year was really dedicated to teaching some of those technology skills to all of our students, along with enhancing their skills. It was a great time to get them in there and practicing. The next slide kind of just shows some of the things that they needed to do. And children are great at technology. Sometimes they've skipped it. They're on touch screens already, and it wasn't uncommon to see our kindergartners look at the desktop computers and try to push and drag things because they thought it was an iPad. But that's when we had to go back and say, well, we're going to use the mouse. And these are some of the skills that they need to know to be successful at Park, really. And a big thing was when you're talking about written expression and you're using a computer, you need to know how to type. So, just teaching our students from early on, some typing skills was really what we found necessary. And, all of these are kind of options for the Park test. The color choices, the masking, line readers, those are all things that we wanted our students to go into Park already being familiar with, so that they weren't necessarily toys, but they already knew how to use them. They were already able to get in and explore.
Stay right there. I think you talked a little bit already. Our PTA, we've been doing fundraisers for a couple years, and they were very generous. Shortly after I got there, they helped purchase our first laptop cart, and of course those, hard to believe, are about 10 years old already, and the batteries are exploding all over. So we went the direction of the district now who was going to Chromebooks. So our PTA purchased 3 Chromebooks to go on one of the old carts. And that's been a wonderful opportunity. So instead of giving up a skills lab time in a lab, we just mosey that little cart down, and children are actually get to practice without a mouse now. So they're getting a lot of lifelong skills. So thank you to our PTA for that.
Okay, and this is kind of what we said before. Not necessarily to teach to the test, but there's language on the test that you want your students to be familiar with, so it's not a hurdle. And what we did was, especially with our 4th and 5th grade teams, we sat down and we just encouraged them to look at the wording of some of the questions. And they would use in their pre and post assessments some of similar wording to those questions. So if they used one that was directly from the park site and it was a release question, then maybe for the post assessment, we encourage them to make up their own and kind of see what they could do to get really familiar with the language.
And so the next few slides, we want to share with you the rigor that they're talking about. This is an example of a 5th grade LA question. They have to take 2 stories, and they describe how each narrator's point of view influenced how these events are described. Be sure to use details from both stories. In the past, they might have had to do it for 1 story, and now they have to do it for 2. Please go to the next slide. This gets a little wordy, but you don't want to just do the same old all the time. So our 4th grade team got together and they said, we're teaching similar things here. So our social studies, the unit was, the students will be able to research, organize, and evaluate information from primary and secondary sources to create a historical narrative. And then in language arts, the 3rd quarter learning goal was, they were going to use secondhand accounts and firsthand accounts of the same event and integrate information from 2 texts on the same topic, drawing evidence from the text to support, analyze, and reflect. These are 5th graders. I think you would have lost me in the reading of the directions there. So on the next slide, they got together, our 4th grade team. They said, we're teaching this in LA, first and second hand, and first-hand, second-hand, and in social studies, we're teaching primary and secondary. They said, well, we already do the story, Snowflake Bentley. It's in their anthology. It's something they've already done. So then they found a video on YouTube called The Snowflake Man, all related, and in social studies, they did a letter from William Bentley. So on the next slide, this is just an example of a pre and post question that we used. Keeping in mind, our 4th grade team is connecting Marzano Effective Instruction back to an earlier slide, District Essential Understandings and Scales and Core Curriculum. So, and like Zach said, you'd get on these sites and there'd be sample questions released, but there might only be 1. And then you wanted on your post test to do something similar. So the teams usually came up with their own post or own pre and then used a part post. So it was a lot of collaborating and planning. They really pushed themselves this year. So our park writing prompt was, today you will read 2 articles and watch a video about the survival of the wild horses on Assateague Island in Maryland and Chincoteague Island in Virginia. As you review these sources, you will gather information and answer questions so that you can write an essay. Post. And then on a pre. And then on a post, trying to get the same skills, what our team created was, today you will read 2 selections and watch a video about Wilson Bentley. I think I called him William before, sorry. History buffs, I'm sorry. Wilson Bentley. And as you review these sources, you will gather information so that you can write an essay. Your essay will integrate information from the 3 sources, including a first-hand and second-hand account. These are 10, 11-year-old children writing some of this. So the rigor is definitely there. The teachers did notice that the level of the park reading samples is much higher. So that is something we'll share with our younger grades to try and promote that. And then you get to talk about my favorite topic.
We just wanted to point out also on the math side, the stretch that is there when you're dealing with park, and that it's a good thing. This is an OEA question that was really just come up with a fraction based off of a group. Getting some memorization, you understand the skill, you're able to show a fraction, you're able to draw a number line and put the X on the number line for that fraction. But what Park kind of does, and if you go to the next slide, it breaks down these into usually part A, part B, sometimes part C, and really elaborates on a question. So, they have 2 students and they're comparing fractions. They're using an improper fraction with a regular fraction. They have to put them on the number line, and you notice that they do kind of make it tricky by making the 5/6 a very long number line when in fact it's actually a smaller fraction. but it's just something there to see, are they looking at the denominators? Are they actually, what the content is? And then this has 2 more parts to it, which would be the next slide, a part B and a part C. So now you're able to do that kind of memorization piece. You understand the skill, but can you take it a step further? Are there inferences you can make? Is it greater or less than? And explain. So that's where all of those other skills come in play. It is fairly difficult to explain and show your work on the computer for a math problem. But our students, we're really proud of them. They tried and writing away in these boxes. And again, there's a part C to this as well, where, okay, now we're at fraction in between that, and explain how you know your fraction is between there. So it's not only can you do it, but you need to explain your answer too.
Okay, and we did our communication with our families. This was explained at our conferences. Instead of a curriculum night, we had a curriculum morning this past year, and the grade levels talked to our families. We're always putting news in our Musketeer and our website, teacher newsletters, and homework assignments. It was just constantly trying to keep parents in the loop. And we do post some of the fun websites in the Musketeer and on the site. And these are what they use in Skills Lab, so all the children can get on these.
And we just wanted to finish by saying it's definitely been a bumpy walk in the park, but our teams sit there long enough.
He had a moment. He had a moment.
Our teams have worked really hard this year, and they've done a great job in helping our students grow.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just have one question really quick. I just have one question really quick. And thank you for putting this presentation together and all the work you're doing. And you're right, sometimes it does seem like you're moving towards a moving target because of possible changes. But I always tell people the law is what it is until it changes. And might change and maybe change, and everything else is just sort of part of the process. What is the messaging in the park grade levels, 3 through 5? In your case, what's the messaging from teachers to the students about the importance and significance of these tests? Is it? I'm hearing stories about students getting really stressed out over these.
They do get stressed. I can say because they started last year with MAP and MPG, we've been not downplaying, but telling them it's important and to show what they know. Remember when we did OA, we started 6 weeks ahead of time doing our exercises to wake up our brain and really get pumped for the OAA. And if you show up every day, you're going to have a treat from the PTA. We didn't do that this time. Just to try and take some of that level of stress off. These are important. Do your best. Show them what you know. And we tried to approach it that way. And I didn't hear it's not like in the morning today, rah-rah. We really tried not to downplay it, but to try and be cognizant of that stress level of our children and staff, and just not do a lot of that push that way. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, that's very much. Thank you.
Deborah, you mentioned that this year you met with the families or the parents in the morning versus evening. How did that go? Was it as good a turnout, better turnout?
In some grades it was better. Some it was worse. Or younger it was worse. It was better in the higher grade levels. Teachers liked it. Our parents did not. Next year we're going back to the evening. We listened. So.
Okay, thanks.
Staff didn't know that yet, except for the ones that are here.
Oh, no, they did.
Yes, tomorrow will be interesting.
Deborah, of course, I went to Mofford Heights. Andrew knows that too.
I didn't know that.
You've been there now 12 years. How is the PTA, and is it as strong now as it was when you started 12 years ago? I've lost all contact with my nephews and nieces who went through Mofford Heights School, and I just live down the street off West Fork, and I'm just curious how the parent involvement is over there.
It's as strong as ever. In society, we've got more parents working. So in terms of volunteerism during the school day, it's less, but we've got a lot more parents working.
Okay.
But our programs are still wonderful. Carnival is still, there's a lot of our extra events that are just packed, and they're very supportive.
Okay. That carnival was big medicine back when You're in the second, third grade. Couldn't wait for the carnival. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you very much for your report. Our next item is report from employee organizations. Is there anyone here from the certificated or licensed employee groups that would like to speak? Seeing no one. Report from classified employee organizations. Is there anyone here who would like to speak? And we will move on to report from school-related organizations. Is there anyone here who would like to speak? Community comments. I have received no requests to address the board. Do we have any, Chris or Amy? Okay. We'll move on to a fiscal item. Dr. Jackson.
Yes, we have the financial reports for March. I'll turn it over to Amy to describe these.
Okay. Yes, I just wanted to point out on the cash flow report in your packet, the revenue percentage is higher for this time of year because we have collected our first half taxes. And so we have that money given twice a year, so we're using it for the rest of the remainder of the fiscal year. And our expenditures are right on target with the forecast at this time of the year. And then also on the investment report, trying to change the format of that, but to also show you that we are laddering our investments to match our cash flow and trying to maximize our return on investments. So that's a work in progress, and you'll see that continuing to change in the next couple months.
Thank you, Amy.
So the treasurer and superintendent recommend the Board of Education approve the financial reports as listed.
So moved.
Second. The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is a certificated licensed personnel item, Dr. Jackson.
Yes, we have 5 resignations and 4 extra duty procedural resignations. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the certificated license, personnel, retirements, and resignations as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is a classified personnel item.
Yes, we have 6 resignations and 1 substitute procedural resignations. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the classified retirements and resignations as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I would just like to add, as I always do, that our meeting has been posted since Friday, and the board members have had a chance to review all these attachments, and of course the public can access that too through our website. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is a fiscal item. Dr. Jackson.
Yes, again, I'll turn this over to Amy to describe this.
Annually, the boards and taxing entities are required to approve their amounts and rates to the county auditor so they can certify them for what they're going to collect for taxes in the next year. And as you can see in your packet, of the 46 mills that have been voted on by our public, they're collecting at the 20 mill floor for the general fund. So that just lets you know the difference as House Bill 920 rolls the tax rates back. But this also shows the proposed bond operating levy to be voted on as, if it would pass, that would be your amounts and rates, and it does take off the emergency levy that would go off the books at the end of the year if that was not to be renewed. So what this would do is just certify the amounts and rates to the county auditor for the district.
Is that something we would need to bring back depending on what happens next Tuesday, or?
No, the vote by the public would determine it.
Okay.
The treasurer and superintendent recommend the Board of Education approve the amounts and rates as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Chris, please call a vote. Motion carries 5-0. Our next item is selection of construction legal services.
Yes, we had a subcommittee meet before this meeting to make a recommendation. We had 3 firms submit proposals, and the committee recommends Dinsmore. They are currently our bond counsel as well, so they would be the construction counsel for the upcoming building project, assuming it passes on May 5th. We picked them for a couple of reasons. One, like I said, they're also our bond counsel, but also because of their experience in this area. The superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education approve the selection of construction legal services as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Dan, is there, in section 1, was there some issue with perhaps with where it says the superintendent, treasurer, or the president of the Board of Education individually or in combination can execute the engagement letter? Should that be an individual thing, or do we want to make that?
No. I did talk to Dr. Jackson about that before the meeting, and when this is negotiated, it will come back to the board for an approval, so that'll be on a future agenda.
Okay, that's fine.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is our summer permanent improvement projects. Dr. Jackson?
Yes, Todd Billing's going to discuss with the board the various bids that came in and which ones we're ready to approve, and there's one we're going to have to rebid, and he's going to describe that to you.
Okay, this summer we had 6 bid packages, 7 total, but again we removed one. I'll go over that in a minute. The first bid package was for Colerain High School, Colerain Middle, Pleasant Run Middle, White Oak Middle renovations. The second one was Colerain L, Colerain Middle, Montford Heights structural and masonry repairs. The third was Colerain Career Center, Colerain L, CMS window replacement. The fourth was Colerain L, Colerain High School, Northwest High School, finishing up 3 stages at Northwest and 2 stages at Colerain High School in the auditoriums for their lighting upgrades, and Colerain Elementary also. Bid package 5 was Colerain L, Colerain Middle roofing replacement, and the last one was Colerain High School PRMS, AHU and exhaust fan replacement. For the combination bid, which was a contractor who put in a bid for 3, combining them into one, that's going to be Leo J. Brielmeyer. He'll do the middle school renovations, the structural masonry repairs, and the window replacement at Colerain Middle, Colerain L, and Colerain Career Center. BJ Electrical will do the lighting in the 2 auditoriums and at Colerain Elementary. William Kramer and Son will do the roofing replacement, and the Gala Company will install the AHU and exhaust fan replacements. We also had a bid go out for the tennis replacement of the surface at Northwest High School. Large cracks have developed after the ground settled. The 2 bids, one came in at $20,000, one came in at $93,000, opposite ends. Our estimate was around $43,000 to $45,000, so we will send this out to get rebid, and hopefully we can look at it. Dick and I are making contact with OHSAA for some of their contacts for who does that type of work across the state. So at the next board meeting, you'll probably have a new resolution to bid for that part. So we have done the background checks on all of them, and I am recommending that the following be approved for contract services.
So the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the summer permanent improvement 2015 project contracts as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Will we need to approve sending that out for rebid for that tennis court item? I mean, are we approving that right now that you can go ahead
No,
and
I'll
send it out for
resubmit it
rebid?
once we get the resubmittal from Roth, and then we'll get it back out again. We'll open the bid up for a 10-day period, and then
So if that's at our next board meeting, May 11th, and the bids come back the meeting after that, which is when? Not Memorial Day.
It's
June.
We only have one May meeting. It's
One May meeting, May
Will that
11th, so
give
we'll
the
come back in
contractor
June for
enough
a
time to get it
recommendation to
done?
accept, yes.
That if we don't approve it till June, or will you need a special meeting for that?
I do not believe so. Dick and I have talked, and we think we can get it done in
That's kind
plenty
of
of
late to
time.
get into the, it only gives them a
Yeah, they should have time to complete it this summer.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is a general business item, Dr. Jackson.
So we typically bring this to the board a couple times during the year, and this is one of the large ones. So there's a total of about 350 students that we're declaring too impractical to transport. Each parent or each family receives $250 stipend to transport their own students per student. So you see the full list, and then there's the resolution to do this. So the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the resolution to declare students impractical to transport as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I'm just going to have to abstain on this vote just because of some potential conflicts that I see.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 4-0 with one abstention. Our next item is a certificated licensed personnel item.
Yes, we have posted both Northwest High School Athletic Director and Colerain High School, and later in the meeting we're going to hire a Northwest High School Athletic Director. In order to increase the pool of candidates for the Colerain High School Athletic Director, we have decided to bring this job description to the board to consider non-administrators to do this job. So we'll look at both administrators and non-administrators. If it's a non-administrator, it would be part of the teaching contract, but they would be paid extra days at their daily rate plus a supplemental. So the salary range will be right in what we need for an athletic director. So that'll take care of those issues. We'll also allow, excuse me, we'll also allow any classified folks to apply as well, and then we may have to come back with an additional job description if needed, but this will at least open the pool up a little bit. So you have a copy of that job description. It's called Coordinator of Athletics job description. So superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the Coordinator of Athletics job description as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Andrew, I do have a question. The difference between the two jobs for the two schools, if we hire somebody that doesn't have a administrative license, the only thing that they can't do is to evaluate teachers?
Correct.
Is that the only thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Andrew, I was just curious. I think I emailed you. I was just curious why there wasn't a big pool. I would just think that'd be a very desirable job. And
You know, I can't necessarily answer that. I know we have had a lot of interest for folks that do not have an administrator license. So by doing this, we will get a considerably larger pool and some very qualified candidates. But for whatever reason, those that with the administrator license, it just wasn't as deep.
okay.
Any other discussion? And so you'll be able to post this job tomorrow?
We actually already posted it.
Okay, so if it doesn't
I can't
pass-
fill it until you approve it, but I can post it.
Oh, so you're doing it right now?
Right, it's been posted.
I think we should table this. Any other discussion? Okay, go ahead and call a vote, Chris. I'm still thinking. Motion carries 5-0. We'll move on to our next item. Certificated licensed personnel item.
Yes, we have 2 administrators, 1 administrative change in status, 3 changes in status for others, an extended service contract, 6 certificated employees, and then we have administrative contracts, a total of 17 to be renewed, and they vary in length between 1 or 2 years. And then we also have a resolution to hire 4 non-licensed coaches. Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the certificated licensed personnel items as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0.
And before we move on to classified, I'm going to turn it over to Tracy Ray, who's going to introduce a couple of new administrators for us.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. Northwest Local School District would like to welcome Kevin Gale as Montford Heights Elementary School Principal. Kevin comes to us from Lakota Local School District, where he taught 4th grade from 2006 to 2015. Prior to that, he taught in the Northwest District at White Oak Middle School from 2001 to 2006. Kevin has a Bachelor of Science degree in elementary education, a Master's of Education degree in curriculum and teacher leadership, and his principal licensure from Miami University. Kevin is here tonight with his wife Laura and is cheered on at home by their 2 children, Jacob and Veronica. Please join me in welcoming Kevin back to the Northwest family. I would also like to introduce Brad Watkins. Northwest Local School District would like to welcome Brad as a Northwest High School Athletic Director. Brad comes to us from Hamilton City School District, where he served as Assistant Principal of Hamilton Freshman School from 2012 to present. Prior to that, he was an Intervention Specialist at Wilson Middle and Hamilton High Schools. Brad has a bachelor's degree in special education from California University of Pennsylvania and a master's degree in educational leadership from the University of Cincinnati. Brad is joined here tonight with his wife Erin, his son Pace, his daughter Piper, and parents Brian and Ellie. Please join me in welcoming Brad to his new role.
And we'll move on to classified personnel item. Dr. Jackson.
All right. We have, again, administrative contracts for our classified. We have 7. They vary from 1 to 2 years in length, 1 change in status, and 1 classified substitute. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the classified personnel items as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? And just a note on the attachment, it shows it's off by a year, but on the header of the document, it shows 2015, 2016, which would be correct. The attachment says 4/27/14.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the list is correct, so is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. The next item is a curriculum and instruction item, Dr. Jackson.
Yes, we have a request from White Oak Middle School to take students overnight on May 21st to 22nd for the Power of the Pen. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the extended field trip as listed.
So moved.
Second. The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is a science textbook adoption.
Yes, this is the science textbook that was recommended at the last meeting, so it's brought back for approval by the board. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the science textbooks as listed.
So moved. Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I would like to add, with all the discussion about textbooks and parents worried about what's out there, we did have a committee, a large committee, go through and pick out these science textbooks, and we've had no requests for comments, so I think we're doing the right thing and we've picked the right textbooks. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. Chris, please call a vote. And the textbook is approved, 5-0. Our next item is a fiscal item.
I'll turn this back over to Dan. Dan asked for this to be on the agenda for an item for discussion. I know at the last meeting we passed a resolution to participate.
And just so that everyone knows this is going on, I think the update since then, Amy, is that you have signed up the district. You filled out the online application.
Correct. After it was approved last time, I went online and...
Great. So now we're just waiting on the state treasurer's office to get the software configured at this point.
Correct.
Just to mention too, Dan, that there's absolutely no cost to the district for doing this.
Right. Yeah. We haven't experienced any cost yet, have we? No. Okay, great. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. General business item, Dr. Jackson.
So you have 5 proposals for you to review from various construction managers that either requested to be or responded to be a construction manager as advisor or at risk, or either one. They can do both. The companies are Shook Touchstone, Resource International, Turner, Lend-Lease Conger, and Skanska Megan are the 5. The attachment there is a memo from our attorneys. Brad Gibson actually put that memo together. If you can open that up for a second, I'm going to ask you to multitask. And if you look at that memo on the bottom of page 2 and the top of page 3, you see the process for selecting either a CMR or a CMA. And just to clarify, Brad references what we reference as a CMR, he references as a CMAR, but that's the at-risk one. So you can see the first 3 steps on both is to advertise, which we've done, is to evaluate, and then to rank the top 3. Now, obviously, we're not going to, we have 5 total. I don't know if we'll have 3 of one or the other in terms of the CMA or the CMR. So there's a few different ways to do that. I recommend that we have a couple board meetings to bring them in to interview them. And then at that point, after the second board meeting, the board needs to decide 2 things. One, which direction they want to go, either CMA or CMR, and we can ask those questions. We can have construction counsel here, and we can have our architects here as well to help us with that. And then you would direct myself and Amy to start negotiating a contract with the top and start moving down. But that's going to mean we have to have a couple board meetings. I thought maybe we could do like a 6:30 board meeting if possible. Do 3 one night, 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, get out here about 9:30. And then do another one maybe a couple nights later at a 6:30, 7:30, then have time at the end to discuss and rank the firms. So I don't know if you want to look at your calendars now or if you want to do this via email with different dates. I can throw some dates out. It's going to be, ideally, if we could have this done by May 11th would be great, but that's just 2 weeks from now. It's going to be very difficult to make that happen. We're probably going to have to have a couple meetings between now and then and possibly make the decision after May 11th at some sort of special board meeting to do that. We would want to get them on board as close to May 6th as possible.
As close to?
May 6th as possible, which is the day after the levy vote, so they can be in from the very beginning. I mean, they'll be part of the design phase and everything else when we start doing that this summer. And we'll start that work as soon as the levy passes on May 5th.
I think we probably should have board meetings so the 5 of us can discuss it. I've just now received these, just like the rest of us, we've just now received these. May 6th or 7th would be fine.
Well, Wednesday's the 6th, right, Dan? That'd be fine with me.
Probably the 7th, because in case we don't have clarity on what happens next Tuesday by Wednesday.
So you want to meet on both May 6th and 7th?
It depends.
6:30 on both dates?
I get to see what the availability is of the other board members.
Well, I'm going to be the optimist here, Dan, and say that we'll know without having to go into a recount or anything. Wednesdays work for me because I'm off work on Wednesdays. Thursdays don't. So for whatever that's worth as far as my involvement.
I'd prefer to try to start a little bit earlier, if we could. We could do the 6th.
I can start at 4 o'clock on Wednesday, whatever time you want to start.
Jim?
Yeah, I'm fine.
For what day?
It doesn't matter. I'll make it work. I'll make it work too.
I'd say if we could do it earlier, I think.
On May 6th?
Instead of being here till 10 or 11 at night. It'd be nice.
The 6 o'clock is about as early as I can get here.
Okay.
Does that work for you,
Yeah,
Michael,
yes.
or do you need a little more time than that?
I'll make it happen.
Okay.
So May 6th at 6 o'clock.
We can
6 o'clock will be one
No, I don't.
meeting. What about the second meeting?
Andrew, could we do it all? It's only 5, and it's not as in-depth as like hiring, some of the other people we've hired, attorneys and architects.
Do we want to shorten it to give them each a half-hour presentation and try to do all 5 of them on the same evening?
Sure.
I think that'd be
It might
great.
work, yeah. If that's the case, can we just do it on Thursday then?
I can't
Oh.
make Thursday. Sorry,
Oh,
you want to do it without me.
Okay. I'll make Wednesday work.
Are we going to include our business director?
Yes, and
Right.
Amy as well, I thought.
Yeah.
And I was hoping our construction council and our architects can come as well to help.
Will we have construction council finalized by then?
Hopefully, we'll at least have new we won't have a contract or a letter, but we'll know who they're going to be. So
Well, yeah, of course.
start that work.
It'd be nice to get them all done in one night, I
Okay.
think.
So Amy and I will work on that and contact these companies and get them scheduled for May 6th. And we'll start at 6 o'clock on half-hour increments. Okay? Does that work for everybody? Okay.
Sure.
We'll do.
And then we'd have to have a special meeting to approve. Did you say that?
If we're going to do it all one night, it's possible we could do it that evening, but what will happen is, what I need from the board is a rank of the top firms and then an authorization to start working with the top firm to negotiate a contract. So the contract wouldn't be brought back till May 11th at the earliest, so that we wouldn't actually select, we would rank them and then authorize me to speak with them, but we wouldn't actually know if the contract's going to work out or not at that point. And if we go with the CMR, it's an extensive amount of work that they have to respond to. They actually, they have to have costs involved, and they actually do some of the work themselves, so it's a little bit more of it's a different animal than just a construction manager, the ones at risk. But at the end of the evening, on May 6th, we'll know who our top choice is, and we'll start that work. Okay?
That's fine. 6 o'clock, and that'll be open to anybody in the public who wants to sit out here and watch?
Yes.
6 o'clock on May 6th.
Okay.
Moving right along, community comments and questions. Is there anyone in the audience who has a question or comment specific to anything that was discussed this evening?
Hello. How y'all doing, team? First of all, I want to welcome the new athletic director. I know him. He's baby food. This guy's a good character. I think this will be out. He's outstanding. I think I hope it works out for him and everything. He's a good guy. Hey, I wanted to ask on the tennis courts, man. If we do all that, are we going to be? Well, not league because I'm not coaching, but. You know, I help Miss Byers, but are they going to be ready for the fall? Because they actually July, because they have all that.
We would put the bids out. We would have the bids accepted by the June board meeting. And then, once the contract gets going, West Side Paving and another company who put in bids last time said it could easily be done during the summer.
Okay. July is, they're legally allowed to start in July.
With anybody we accept a bid from, we meet and explain the timelines to them and go through the process and what we want to do. So there will be a downtime where it's under construction, but prior to it, it'll be open in May, it'll be open in June, and then when they do the construction in June, ideally, then it'll be ready pretty quick.
The settling time on that. I think they rushed
The
it
good
the
thing is
last
the
time.
surface underneath has settled. That was the problem. It had not settled when they first put it in. That's why the cracks started. Now we think there's a good foundation there and there's no more settling to occur.
Are we going to change the color? We kind of wanted some school colors stuff. I guess not.
A committee's deciding that, Dexter.
Huh?
A committee's deciding the color of the tennis courts.
Okay. Oh, no. That
We'll
was,
make sure we get Ms. Byers in play.
yeah, Ms. Byers, yeah, because she, you know, we work on that. But I'm glad we're getting it done because, you know, and it was due. I mean, I started tennis there, so it's pretty well, it's the same courts as, on a somewhat unpleasant, I need the board to help me with the uniform thing. Mr. Jackson and I had came to some kind of understanding about the uniform at Northwest, and my constituents, and I'll just put it simple because I've talked to Mr. Jackson about it, so he already knows what I'm talking about. I think if we're going to keep the uniform, obviously we're going to keep the uniform in Northwest School District. We're not going to put it throughout the district. As I said, I conceded on that understanding, but I still feel that it's improper to if a kid's on his way to an algebra class, doesn't have a belt on, he's put into an in-school suspension type situation until someone brings him up a belt, which would have been totally impossible for me as a parent. He wasn't going to be run all the way to Lakota to take a belt. So now we've taken a kid from a class where he's supposed to be learning algebra or history or English, and we've taken him out of that mode because of a belt. I think that's illogical, especially when we're worried about grade point averages and how much knowledge a kid is taking in a day. What I thought was appropriate, and I bounced it off of Mr. Jackson, what I thought was appropriate would be a detention. I mean, I think it should always be a cause and effect in any rules we put in effect. I'm not against that. I just think it's inappropriate that the punishment is taking them out of the process of learning over a belt or a shirt or, I mean, in a uniform policy is not universal throughout the district. So if we're going to concede, if there's going to be an understanding, I just think it's illogical to take them out of away from the learning process. I don't see how that's going to benefit them becoming smarter if they're, not in class. And every time you're out of a class, I know me, if I missed one formula in algebra, I was set back. So if you took me out of that mode, then I'm farther back again, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be punished for the uniform or being out of uniform. I'm just saying that it's totally no logic that they're taken out of the learning process over a belt or a shirt. It's just, somebody tell me why that would be important.
We can discuss that, Dexter, but I would remind you that this part of the meeting is for topics that have been discussed during the meeting. This would have probably been more appropriate to fill out a yellow request card for new agenda items. And in order to be fair to everybody else in the audience, this wasn't on the agenda for this meeting. And when I called for someone to speak, and I'm happy to discuss it, we do have an attorney waiting for us at an hourly rate when we conclude the meeting. And
wow. And wrong time. Okay. Then
well, and I don't mean anything by it, but I mean it's my job as president to run the meeting, and this would have been a better topic for a yellow card, and I'm happy to talk about it at the next meeting.
We already know what's in my heart and head, and
and one of the other, and when we talked about this last time, we talked about when we find out what happens with the bond issue, the schools could be reconfigured, and there's so many things that would happen. And I think when we talked about this several months ago, that was kind of where we left it off at, was let's wait until we see what's going to happen with our school configuration, depending on what happens with the bond issue. So, because if we close some schools and move to some other ones, how are we going to decide how to do, where to do uniforms
based on the
at?
high school, we decided not to combine the two high schools, so that's no longer an issue.
Well, it might go down into the elementary schools. I would prefer just to wait until next Tuesday. It's just a week off.
Okay.
So.
I'll tell them that. Maybe they'll wait till next Tuesday.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Dexter. Was there anyone else that had any comments or questions specific to the topics that were on tonight's agenda? If you'd approach the microphone, please. Just so that everyone can hear it and it gets picked up on the camera. Hi.
I was just wondering if you could tell me what the board vote was to put the bond issue on the levy for May. Do you understand?
It was a 5-0 vote back on January. I think we had a meeting on the 5th, and then 2 weeks later we might have had another meeting to solidify.
Might have been the 20th.
You have to do a couple of votes on it.
Yeah.
We took 2 votes back in January to put it on the ballot.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Was there anyone else in the audience that had any questions specific to this evening? And seeing no one, we will move on to the next item. Other board items. Mr. Heater.
Well, funny that our last speaker would bring up the levy. It's actually a small operating and bond issue. What I'm going to ask everybody who's a resident of the district is find somebody who you don't think is going to vote. Like my mom is 82 years old and she wasn't going to vote. And I said, Mom, you're going to vote. And she is now going to vote. It could come down to 25 or 30 votes. We've got some exciting things happening in the last week. There's going to be a presence on cable TV. A rather slick Hollywood-style commercial, if I might say.
Oh, boy.
Just kidding. I'm the one who made it. But we do have the person who's doing the voiceover, believe it or not, happens to be an acquaintance of mine. And she does a lot of the national P&G commercials. So here we have cable commercials for Northwest Schools with a national voiceover. It's a voice you'll recognize when you hear it, who does Procter & Gamble commercials. And she did it at a big discount for us. and she doesn't even live in the district. So find somebody who you don't think was going to vote and get them out. This is a replacement levy. This is not an increase. And I personally think it's going to not be that tight, but you never can tell with these sort of things. And there's been no opposition or no organized opposition, but just as I got my mom who's now committed to voting and voting affirmatively, I ask that you do the same, find somebody. That's it.
I'd like to second
Mr.
that,
Detzel?
Chris. Absolutely.
Mrs. Detzel?
Chris, we have been on the same page here quite a bit here lately, and I totally agree. I have a neighbor who is a graduate, always supported the levies, didn't think about it, leaving over the weekend for a nice 2-week trip, and I said, hey, you need to get an absentee ballot. Well, it should be fine. I said, no, you need to get an absentee ballot, which she did, so I got one too there. And I think we've learned in the past, every vote does count. I mean, we've had levies here where we've won by what, was it 2, 3 votes? We can't take it for granted, and we say this every time, but if our parents just take a minute and go vote, we won't have any problem at all. But we do have to remind people I don't really know what else is on the ballot, but it's so important that you go vote on Tuesday and support this district, support every single student in this district is going to benefit from this. So with that said, if anybody still needs signs, see me as soon as this meeting's over. We have some in the car. And thank all the people that have been out there placing signs, large ones, small ones. Chris's support. We have a billboard. This is crucial for this district, and we really, really have the opportunity to see 3 brand new buildings without our tax rate increasing at all. So please take the time, whether it's raining or that sun shining, to go vote on Tuesday.
I'd also like to add that you can vote absentee for any reason in the state of Ohio. I've already voted absentee for the levy. My wife's already voted absentee for the levy. My in-laws have already voted for the levy. The only reason why my parents haven't voted for it is they don't live in the district. And
we get in trouble.
Yes, that could be a problem. And you can also go down and stop into the Board of Elections if you happen to work downtown or be downtown for other reasons. It's because it's the only thing on the ballot, you're in and out, very quickly. So I encourage everybody to go out there and to vote and to bring a friend and talk it up over the weekend at your kids' sporting events or any other options at church or wherever you might run into friends, neighbors, and acquaintances. I know I've talked to a number of people, and at first the number one question I got was, "There's a levy," and it's kind of flying under the radar. Unfortunately, the signs are very very prominent now, so I don't get that comment quite as often as I did, say, 2 weeks ago. But it's certainly a very important vote for our district's future.
And real quick, just to piggyback, another thing is, for those of you out there that have students that are 18, it's important that we teach our kids that you vote. That is your right in this country to vote. So let's get these 18-year-olds and let them get their buddies, and they're not going to stand in a long line. They're going to get in and out, but let's get them to the polls.
Thank you. And please keep in mind that the 5-year emergency levy that passed in 2010 is dropping off, and this, while it's not listed on the ballot as a replacement, this is a slightly lower millage. So for a lot of us, we will see an actual reduction in our property tax bills, and it is something that's overdue to get around to replacing these schools. And I've been around these board meetings a long time, and I've been a part of the board. This is my 8th year, and I think we have a real unique opportunity right now to get an issue passed and actually get something that'll benefit the whole community for many, many years to come. And with that, we'll move on to the next item, which is executive session. Dr. Jackson.
Yes, the board will move into executive session to conference with an attorney concerning disputes that are subject of pending or imminent court action, and to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the motion to move into exec session as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Chris, please call the vote. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you all for coming this evening. We will come back after this just to adjourn the meeting. So if you want to stick around for us to adjourn the meeting, I can't predict what time we'll be back out here, but we will all leave our computers on.